The Little Mermaid remake is pretty terrible. Not the worst film I've ever seen, but very lackluster in every way. There is a multitude of things that are very wrong with this movie. In short, if you want to watch it, don't. The original is out there, and it's way better. And I watched the behind the scenes documentaries of both projects for research for this video, and it's very telling. To be fair to the remake, it included many talented people who clearly cared about making this movie as good as they thought it could be. And you know what, I respect it. It is a shame though that such clear talent went to mostly waste. The bottom line is that the original was made in desperation, because Disney were in a really bad spot at the time, and the new one was made for, well, money. And it's weird because these companies would keep making money if they actually made quality pieces of media like they once regularly did. But no, they looked towards the short term, and they made another horrifying live action Disney movie. Before understanding why the live action Little Mermaid film doesn't work, I decided to look back at the original, a movie that I'd somehow never seen before, and watching the original Little Mermaid film was so enjoyable. It's a really solid animated movie, honestly. And this is something that I don't say too often on this channel. I sometimes wonder why Disney was ever liked in the first place. And then a film like this reminds me why. They can make good movies. I think the reason why The Little Mermaid works so well is because primarily, there's something for everyone. Despite what it may look like on the outset, it is a family movie. It's not just a baby movie or a little girl's movie. I genuinely think there's something for everyone in this film. In fact, while it may not be the best movie ever made, it's one of those movies where it's just impossible to hate. And as you guys may know, it came out at a time where Disney were releasing flop after flop. And this movie started the Disney Renaissance in the 90s where they released quality movie after quality movie. The team behind this movie saw the writing on the wall when Disney was in a rut in the 80s. At this point they believed that Disney could be no more. It was that bad. But when desperate times call for desperate measures, something great can come out of it. To start off with, the heads of the Little Mermaid project had no prior history with animation. That's crazy. Jeffrey Katzenberg, yes, the DreamWorks Jeffrey Katzenberg actually used his previous live action experience to help develop this movie.
I said, you know, we're not Walt. We have to be us. And we have to find our own way.
Katzenberg, although you're not the best human being in the world, at least you understood that you have to be genuine when making a movie. Now, why else does this original film work so well? Let's just go through some of the main points. The movie's pacing. My god, this is one of the most well-paced movies I think I've ever seen. There's genuinely not one dull moment. Now, it is true that the movie is only an hour and 23 minutes, but I've watched shorter movies that feel quadruple this runtime, and I think that things like the fact that they made songs in order to push the plot forward really help that. It's not just the fact that these songs are so memorable, but like any good musical, it's used to help the narrative move along. I mean, seriously, this pacing would work even for people who can only stand brain rot. The film goes from setting up the mythology of the mermaids, to the performance with the mermaids, to the inciting incident, and all in 6 minutes. Everything makes sense and flows perfectly. There's seriously not a second of wasted time in this film. The story itself is so well done. It's based off the fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen, and they took some creative liberties in changing the ending, where in this version, spoiler alert by the way, Ariel doesn't die in the end. And that is pretty much the only reason I can see online why people don't like this movie. Did you really expect for Disney to kill off the Little Mermaid? Are you kidding me? But no, it's a classic fish out of water story. And while I admit that the actual plot itself isn't the most original, the execution in this is so well done that it doesn't matter. It's quite amazing, honestly. A lot of times in these movies it's all about the execution, and it kind of makes or breaks them. And I think the characters in this really hold up. Ariel is a likeable protagonist. You understand her wants and desires, and you believe her naivety of things due to her young age. She's completely obsessed with the human world and all of its artifacts, and she wants to get out of the ocean. And her dad, King Triton, on the other hand, doesn't want anything to do with humans and eventually forbids Ariel from interacting with the human world. This eventually brings Ariel to Ursula, the evil squid who gives her human legs in exchange for a voice, and some other small fine print. It's kind of like the Rumpelstiltskin situation in Shrek 4. And Ursula is such an iconic villain, and it brings yet another level of enjoyment to the movie. Pat Carroll gives such an entertaining and funny performance that you can't really help but love her. Her presence and even design on screen are just so iconic. And yeah, the love interest in this isn't the best character. Hey, I never said it was a perfect movie. But literally all the other characters, like Sebastian, Flounder, Scuttle, and even the chef are so good that it doesn't really matter that much. And this film is really funny at points. Sebastian and Scuttle bring a lot of the jokes, but man, the chef, this guy is absolutely insane, and I love it. And yet, of course, the soundtrack slaps. It's one of those movies where you know all the songs even if you've never watched it. Part of Your World, Under the Sea, the Chef song. All of this music is great and so timeless. And speaking of timeless, this movie is timeless. Well, most of the time. The CGI did not age the best, but considering the time it was made, at points it can work quite well. The 2D animation in general though absolutely pops, and it adds so much charm and soul to the movie. For how crude 2D animation can be, it's always astonishing when they do it right like they did here. Just all the colour palettes, the ocean, the backgrounds, everything just pops. Even the darker backgrounds work well because it's contrasted with how enticing the rest of the movie looks. They even designed the characters to fit in with the world. Like they consciously made Ariel's hair red to contrast with her tail. I know this may be some trivial stuff, but you know, by watching the behind the scenes documentary, which I really do recommend by the way, you can see that such thought and effort was put into this motion picture. Well done, Disney. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the 2023 remake. And to start off with, yes, this film is pretty terrible. It's not the worst live action Disney remake, but like the others, it sure is pointless. And boring. Excruciatingly boring. It was agonisingly boring. I couldn't take it. I couldn't physically bring myself to finish it. It took me like 5 days to watch the whole thing. Now you may be wondering why that is. And that's because it's an hour longer than the original. Yes, you heard right. This bloody movie is like 2 hours and 20 minutes. The sheer audacity that Disney had making their movie that long is astounding. For reference, it's similar length to films like The Shawshank Redemption and Pulp Fiction. And so many things happen in those movies. So many subplots and different images dancing on screen happen in those films. Does The Little Mermaid really warrant this runtime? Especially considering the original was perfectly paced and has no filler. The answer to that question is no, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. And it just goes on and on and on. It never seems to bloody end. There are so many pointless extra scenes that don't need to be in there. Why did they spend so much time on how Ariel got on land? Why is this needed? And also the song when Ariel gets on land where she's questioning everything. It's a far cry from the chef song, eh? And by the way, this movie doesn't even have the chef song, which is probably my favourite scene in the original. All they do is pan out scene after scene with Eric and Ariel. And yeah, the actor for Eric is trying, but it just feels like filler. They could have fleshed out his character in way less time. It's not like the first one where, again, the pacing works so well. Is there anything really good to say about this movie? At least the stairs look real in this one. Anything else good? No, I mean, that's the most I can say really. Maybe a backhanded compliment going along the lines of, it wasn't the most unpleasant experience I've ever had. I'd watch this shit over Son of the Mask, I guess. And let me tell you, when you watch this movie, a lot of your reactions are going to be, huh? And what? And why would they do that?
Getting cold fins?
I mean, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way first. The look of the movie. And I can literally show you why this movie doesn't work with comparing one of the shots in the original with the remake. And that's the shot of Eric's castle. The difference of Eric's castle is all that needs to be said. Do I even need to say anything? I mean, my god, the original came out last century. I mean, some of the scenes on land look okay, I guess, but that's all I can say, really. But then it just turns into a CGI mess. What's up with this? The ocean actually looks so much worse than the original. Are we meant to be wowed by this? Are we meant to be astonished just how amazing this world looks? Surely they want to create worlds that we want to explore. This just looks like a CGI hellscape. And man, the score is trying. I do respect that, but it doesn't fit the visuals. I'm just not wowed in the slightest. The set pieces are also disgusting. Like, look how real the shark attack looks. Look at the under the sea part of the movie. The visuals are just so low energy and it looks like sick. No wonder why Ariel doesn't want to stay in the ocean. Who would want to? The colour palette is just disgusting. And what's up with these PlayStation 3 graphics? It looks like a pre-rendered cutscene from years ago. It's not quite the never-ending visual delight of the original, is it? And then it just ends with a fat CGI battle. Yay. And the story too is just so wrong. It's told the same, but it's just ruined in the execution. There are so many lines where there's just so much exposition. And I think you can get away with exposition a bit more maybe on animated films because of the voice actors. There's just something so flat about a lot of these actors' delivery.
You were just a child when mother died and father stopped us going to the surface.
Give me information in a natural way, please. And man, don't get me started on these designs. Who approved these at Disney? Seriously, not everything needs to be so realistic, man, oh my god. Sebastian looks horrifying. What have you done to the poor guy? I mean, look at the way he climbs up the balcony. Who thought, yeah, this looks good? Flounder looks scary. He's too realistic. You know you have categorically failed when Flounder out of all the characters looks freaky. He's supposed to be the sweet little naive companion, but in this he looks lifeless. Jacob Tremblay, the actor for Luca and Flounder in this movie, defended the design change. He also defended the character's updated look, saying, "I really couldn't imagine it in a different way." Wow mate, incredible insight. I'm glad you cleared that one up. The design of Ariel is a major step down too. She's supposed to really pop in contrast with the scenery and what she's wearing, but she doesn't at all. It's almost like they barely considered it. Just look at these shots, she just blends in with the background. She's meant to be a mermaid for Christ's sake. And the acting in this movie is very weird, honestly. I guess it's now a good time to mention Halle Bailey. And no, not Halle Berry. I've got that mixed up before too, to be fair. But yeah, she's fine in this movie. I think that she's one of the better things in this mess of a film. Her performance reminds me of Jodie Benson's in the original. But again, because most of the stuff in this film is bad, why would you ever pick it over the original? At least she can sing, but her actual acting skills are really not that impressive.
Oh, yes, of course. They're not the only ones who have no respect for balance.
And what have they done to Ariel's dad? Javier Bardem is actually an insane miscast. He's just mumbling all his lines.
I welcome news from all of your waters.
Can you really believe that he is a sea king? He just seems so uninterested in everything. He has very little presence in this movie compared to the king in the original. He's not even that likeable. He's not really anything in this movie. His performance reminds me of him in the 5th Pirates film. But to be fair, he's not that bad in this movie. You know what, I think he just takes the role too seriously. He's actually okay, but the direction is just way off.
What about humans?
What about humans?
Like, why did he say humans like that? Who told him to say it like that? He's so sinister. I feel like he's going to ask me to call his coin toss. Eric is also very mixed in this. I find his performance very endearing. You can tell he's really trying. Like, really trying. And I kind of respect it. But did Eric really need to sing? Why did they do this? To be fair, Melissa McCarthy as Ursula is fine in this. I could take or leave her, to be frank. I just feel like Ursula in this isn't intimidating enough. I guess she'd be alright for a stage play of The Little Mermaid or something. And I really didn't appreciate those bloody jump scares. Don't do that again, movie. They did it again. It's disgusting. But the biggest sin this movie did was making Scuttle voiced by Awkwafina. A pretty funny character in the original, absolutely butchered by one of the most pestiferous and unfunny actors I've frankly ever seen in my whole life.
Yes, Say, what's going on, kid? I thought you weren't supposed to be up here. Now you're taking boat rides?
Oh my god, shut up. And yeah, her musical number is also one of the worst things I've ever listened to. Just like her rap career, to be honest.
A lot of really fat pigeons.
Scuttle.
Will you just listen, Sebastian? I got that scuttlebutt.
They really replaced the chef song with this? Again, they replaced the chef song with the Scuttlebutt song. I don't think that there is one person in this entire galaxy who actually likes this shit. These musical numbers are just so cheesy in real life. Like the way she scuttles up the rock and the waves are splashing behind her are just frankly lifeless in this. Animation can be used to make things that would look awkward in real life actually work. It's very bizarre why they would choose to do this. And I have sort of touched on the Under the Sea section. One of the best Disney songs of all time now has such low energy. The delivery is so off, and it just doesn't work. Ursula's song is better than the Under the Sea one at least. It's just alright. Melissa McCarthy is trying, I guess. She fits the performance and role quite well, and it was surprisingly the one I was the least annoyed at.
If this movie doesn't need new songs, let's not shoehorn them in.
Scuttlebutt!
Get dressed, child!
You're welcome for the scuttlebutt!
Let's shoehorn them in.
So that was my comparison of the Little Mermaid movies, and obviously the original is the better film. I have said my piece on it. I think the Disney remakes may end at some point, or at least I hope they lay off them for the foreseeable future. The live action remakes recently have received quite a lot of backlash, and I think that the general public will finally stop seeing them. I mean, with marketing costs, the remake couldn't have made that much money at the box office, and it wasn't that well loved anyway. Disney has so many talented individuals, and I just hope that they rethink their strategies and what type of animated films they make. And if the old saying is true that history repeats itself, like when the original Little Mermaid saved Disney, I think that there is a chance, even if it is a small chance, that they may be able to save themselves again. Just stop making remakes, please. I can't take it anymore.
It's junk. First class junk.